right, Luca Nation, your PWCC weekly report. And full transparency, we're recording this on Friday. We typically record on Saturday. We're recording on Friday because we will be at the Philly show. So we wanted to give you guys a full episode, not kind of one of those episodes from the show. Decided to record it a day in advance. If you guys are unfamiliar, PWCC Premier went live. And I'm looking at that Wilt 9. Gorgeous card. I've decided, Cage, that the Wilt rookie, 1961, right, Fleer?
Is your grail. I saw it on the story.
Yeah, that's a cool card, man.
So if I'm not mistaken, and it's expensive, but if I'm not mistaken, that card, when I really started paying attention to basketball, because, I was in the hobby doing baseball vintage and stuff, but I mean, I guess you could look this up on Card Ladder, but if I'm not mistaken, when I came back in, and I was looking at basketball in 17, 18, the Jordan PSA 10 was like 25,000, and that card was about the same in a 9. 25, 30,000. The Jordan was like 40. Same. It traveled in kind of like the same value. So it's pretty crazy.
Talk to me how that you didn't pull the trigger on that.
It was one that I almost did several times. They were just, what's funny about it is, yes, looking back now, $20,000, we're talking about a Luka Blue being a bargain at $20,000, right? It's just a different world, and for me, it was a different budget. What I pulled the trigger on was an Alcindor, which I'm going to talk about one in the weekly auction today, but that was at 14. And it was an 8.5, and it was.
You love a bargain. You love a bargain.
No. So I got to tell you, when I came back in and I had disposable income, Wilt was not even on my list because, it was baseball cards. Luka hadn't even exploded onto the scene. I mean, if you followed European basketball, you know who he was, but Luka hadn't really started this basketball renaissance. Tatum was kind of like, the rookie, and, he wasn't going to, blow the hobby up, and card prices hadn't blown up like crazy. And, why didn't I pull the trigger on it back then? Because honestly, one, I was buying baseball cards, and two, because I figured, all right, it's 20, 25 now. It'll be 27 or 28 the next time I need to buy one. I didn't think it would be 200, 300. You know what I mean?
Well, yesterday, guys, or maybe 2 days ago, I talked about how we have some really intelligent audience members, and we've gone back and forth on the PWCC 100. And some of the recurring themes with people who've been in this hobby for a long time is, guys, be careful with football collecting. That came out of nowhere the last 1 to 2 years. There is not a long-standing track record of collecting when it comes to football. It was always baseball 1A, basketball 1B, and football was a distant third. Even for a long time, it was baseball that was number one.
Always.
Basketball 2, and football was a distant third. So in a lot of ways, Cage, Wilt got caught up in, like you just said, the NBA renaissance, the basketball collecting hype.
Correct.
Or I don't want to call it hype because I believe it has standing power. I think it has lasting power.
We'll see. I mean, right now, the sport is run globally better than any other sport. So there's no reason to think that it's not going to be a juggernaut for a long time to come. It is the card collecting that the masses are doing, right?
And Wilt and Bill Russell specifically, man, do you think they're going to live in infamy? Don't you think?
Maybe. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. Like those are the 50s, 60s cards.
That 100-point game.
I get it. Wilt especially, yes. Wilt especially. Yeah. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is they've had a heck of a run. Those cards. More so even than a lot of baseball, like Joe DiMaggio, 56-game hit streak, right? So at the time, I paid $20,000 for a Joe DiMaggio rookie from 19. It's not rookie. There's a million different ones, which is, of course, is a difference. There's a 36, there's a 38, there's all kinds of play ball, there's all kinds of stuff. But I bought a DiMaggio for approximately, 20,000 was like 18. And I could have bought the Wilt. The DiMaggio, who, yes, infamy, he's amazing. You just saw the Marilyn Monroe autograph to him, of stuff like $300,000 in Heritage last night, right? He's as famous, right? And he played for the Yankees, as will Chamberlain. And that card that I bought for 18, I think sells for like 40 now, 50. The Wilt that was 25 or 30 sells for hundreds now. So the flip side to your argument, yes, Wilt will live in infamy. Yes, he's got a track record that's sort of only been matched recently by Pete Davidson. And, that's off the court. but you know what I mean, right? Um, I mean, but those cards, even the basketball vintage, have run so much.
I'm hearing Page in my head. He got ahead of his skis.
Yeah, well, that's the only thing that I don't want to say gives me concern, but would give me a little bit of pause. Does that make sense?
1,000%.
So I mean,
I want to ask you one thing, and then we'll get into your the cards that you spotlighted. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So something I'm thinking a lot about is money that moves from industry to industry, and specifically within each industry, how it moves from kind of like subgenre to subgenre. I'll give you guys an example. Last year, say 2 years ago, there was a lot of money in cryptocurrency. Then that money moved to altcoins. Then that money moved to NFTs. Now it's all kind of same industry, but it moves throughout that industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing has happened with sports cards, right? So baseball, basketball, football. A lot of money was poured into basketball. A lot of money was poured into football. And it feels like, baseball's kind of become like that ugly stepchild, right? What causes the tides to come in and out? And will the tide come in again? And the question is it time to buy baseball?
Modern, not modern, vintage. What do you mean?
I think vintage is its own thing. Like, I think vintage is its own game. I'm talking about maybe 2000 to 2022. Maybe I'll even go as far as Derek Jeter and A-Rod's rookie year. Maybe let's say 1994, 1993, 1990, right around that time, where that's not really vintage, but the money hasn't been in those. But there's some iconic greats in that. Frank Thomas, A-Rod.
So we'll get there, right? I think the answer may be yes, but let's put it in context of the wilt, right?
Okay.
Because I looked it up, all right? So on the PSA website, free for anybody to do this, just to check what I'm telling you, right? So February 25th, 2020. So COVID, right? Like right before COVID, this was like the peak of it all. Like we're about to come into it. There's a little bit of run starting to happen. Heritage Auctions had their 225 2020 Winter Platinum night, and the Wilt 9 sold for $32,400. Okay, so $32,400. And you could go back to 2017 and see it's like in the 20s. Heritage had one in 2017, 23,000. So there you had a 3-year window where it went up. That's a nice jump, right? To go from 23,000 to 32,000. It's $9,000. It's making good money. It's up nearly 50% there in 3 years. Nice. It's not the kind of returns that folks in cards looked for. But now extrapolate that out, that if you bought that, and by the way, it's not just a one-off, because the one that sold after that in May of 2020 sold for $33,600 also in Heritage. So you had 32,400, 33,600, and then you had the run. In September it was 85, in December it was 150, then early 2021 $461,000. And then April of 2021, 377. And the most recent one that sold was January this year for $348,000. So is Wilt iconic? Wilt fantastic? Yes, but if you take a look at the chart, you don't see these often. They're not.
How many are there?
They're not a LeBron, refractor, right? It's a different type of card, especially in PSA 9. But think about the run that's done. We've seen a lot of other cards that sold during that time period come down. There are 32 9s and 3 10s, 184 8s. So it's clearly rare.
There's 3 10s.
3 10s, yep. 3 10s.
Wow. Card Letter doesn't even have a 10 on their system.
Well,
I wonder if it's ever sold.
I mean, they don't. I mean, probably the last one that sold it was a long time ago. I think about the last 9 that sold was almost a year ago. January.
If you could get your hands on that 10, is that Mantle territory?
Yeah, 100%. This card is the closest to like Mantle in vintage style. I mean, the Bill Russell, perhaps, the Mikan, perhaps.
Because remember, we're not talking about just on court performance. We're talking about that novelty, that kind of provenance of he scored a 100-point game, like the stories of all the women and all that stuff about.
It's a great card. I just, it hasn't sold, which cuts in its favor. It's a Wilt. There's only 32 people that could ever own one, 35 who could ever own that or better. It's just one of those things where if you take a wide enough snapshot and say, all right, you know what? Let's just say this one sells for 300, which you're like, that's a bargain. it's selling for less than the last 5 copies sold for. They sold for 360, 400, blah, blah, blah. 300's a bargain. But that's 10 times what it was 2.5 years ago. It's just throwing it out there, and so baseball is baseball. What's amazing about baseball is that it didn't do that. You know what I mean? Like it didn't, the baseball cards, the vintage cards didn't go nuts like that. Like even Mantle, right? Even Mantle, which is like the poster child for baseball vintage, right? At the same time, I was buying Mantle. Like I bought a Mantle, 5, and it was $52,000. You know what I mean? And that's what I paid, $52,222. Just in case you can look it up, it's public everywhere.
1952 Mantle, $52,000.
I paid 52. That was I bought it through PWCC when I was still on eBay, and at the time I put in what I considered a mega bid, and I just wasn't using a sniper, and I said, all right, it's a 1952. I'm gonna put 52,222, and I won it for my full bid, like to the dollar I needed. So I don't know if somebody else put in 52. Because it's 52 Mantle, my 222 was what won it for me. But that card, while it has gone up, it's not 10 times what I paid. A Mantle 5 is not a $500,000 card, whereas this one has gone up 10x. So it's an interesting thing to look at. I think the baseball track record and the folks who are in baseball, they kind of they pull these things down a little bit. A different thing can be said about, this is high grade. I'm sure that the wilts in 4s, 5s, and 6s probably have less of a crazy trajectory than this one did, just because of the pop and the whole deal. I love the card. I think the card is a great investment, but it is important to kind of look at, how far a lot of things have come, right? So
let's get into yours. Real quick, I want to touch on kind of my player, what I'm watching, I guess, so to speak, in the market. I've seen a lot of what I'll call I'm going to call it a headwind for the Jordan 1986 Fleer rookie. And the whole kind of shtick on that card at all grades, really, 8s, 9.5 in a BGS, min in a PS, is that there's so many of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the reality, and what I've learned from Cage and just watching the market. When you see people post, I finally got my grail, like this is my dream card.
Mm-hmm.
That is the Jordan Fleer. Now, that might not be a 10 for everybody. Some people it's a 5, some people it's an 8. But the point is, that is the card that when people are in the hobby, they dream to acquire that card. I think that what happened with PSA starting to grade the star and all of this like media headwind, social media headwind on that card has presented a short-term buying opportunity for that card. Short-term, I mean 12 to 18 months. Now, I don't mean like 1 to 2 months. I think you could find because we all know that copy, the centering's different, the edges, it's by the card, not the grade type of, right? Yep. That's one that I would just be watching auction after auction, that you might be able to get one for cheaper than you could have got one before this whole run up with all of the stuff that's going on. And I'll tell you guys, that card is going to be as valuable today as it will be in 20 years in terms of people getting into the hobby will always, always, always want that card. So
I'm trying to think of like a relative card to Jordan. It's tough because Griffey doesn't have one, right? Griffey, the rookie, is so mass produced. And even mass produced, like in condition, there's a lot of them. It's funny because I love your talking point. I don't want to get into the cards, right? But I love your talking point on, is it baseball? Is it time for baseball? Or should we be looking at baseball? And I guess the card that comes to mind, that there's a lot of them, but in high grade, like, difficult condition, there aren't many. And it's the one that people look at. How about the Jeter 93 SP? Is that a comparable one? I know there's less pop, significantly less pop, but Jeter's not Jordan. So you have to factor that in. And so when you look at baseball, right, you would think, all right, well, do your Wilt Chamberlain analysis, right? Has the Wilt run 10x? What was the Jeter price, right? What was the 10 Jeter price? Because even a comparable amount of Jeter 10s as there are to Wilt 9s, right? What was the Jeter price in 2020? If that was $30,000 and it's now $300,000 or $400,000, okay, well, we're seeing similar stuff in baseball. And the current pricing on the Jeter, the last one sold in November of 2021. And by the way, there are a couple of them in auctions now. The last one, November 2021, sold for $360,000, right? And it was $396, $400. Very similar trajectory to the like that Wilt, right? But if I go back to 2020, am I going to see that it was $30,000? No. In March of 2020, that's the closest one to the February 25th Heritage. PWCC sold one for $140,000.
Wow.
And before that, the sale before that was 180. There was one after for 166.
So this was a card that was already a premium card before the run-up.
In 2018, one sold for $99,000.
Wow.
So it was already. I still, if you bought that in 2018 or 2019 or 2020 and you paid 140 or 100 or 160, and you've seen the last sales sell for 396 and 360, you're still happy. You're still like great, but it wasn't the same $30,000 becoming 300 or 400.
Right.
It's 150, 200,000 becoming 300 or 400. So I know it's not the same to compare an SP 93 junk wax era Derek Jeter to Wilt Chamberlain from 1961, but I'm trying to come up with, trajectory, big picture chart kind of things. This way people can look at, has Jeter not run enough or has Wilt run too much? Have they both done what they're supposed to do? You guys can make up your own mind. Your question of, is baseball the way to go? If you look at it from this regard, baseball's only 2x in this high-end card. It's just one card, and obviously that's not scientific. It's just look, this is the smallest sample size we come up with. But you could say that, or you could take the other thing that, maybe there's some room to come down in basketball, and some of those cards might come down. So who knows? I don't know the answer, but this is the kind of stuff that I like to go kind of like behind the scenes and take a look. And the data's all there for you. Just went on, PSA's website and pulled the pop reports and, recent sales. I'm sure there's other sales that they don't capture in there, and you can get that on, Card Ladder or wherever else you get your stuff from. But anyway, fun little exercise. Let's get into the PWCC stuff.
Let's do it.
Some interesting stuff. You sent me a picture of a cool card. Here's another cool one, right? And you now know, that there are cards that are relevant, there are cards that are not, you name it. But pull up for me. And by the way, I got some nice comments about people loving this episode, and they love you pulling the card up and us being able to talk about them as we're looking at the card and the whole deal. 2018 National Treasures Gold. So rookie for Mr. SGA. Rookie patch auto BGS 95. It's card number 1 of 10. Again, 2018 National Treasures Gold. Shy Wave Logs, Gilgis Alexander, rookie. Patch auto, number 1 of 10, BGS 95. Clearly, this guy is, shall we say, balling right now. But his cards still sell for a fraction of Jaws prices. Hell, they still sell for a fraction of what Trey sells for. Is he undervalued? Is he overvalued? Is this dead money, as you once told me a very long time ago, because of where he plays and the style that he plays? Shoot.
A few things that I love about this card. So one, just a few weeks ago, I actually talked about it in a clip that went absolutely viral. Someone bought this card for was it 9,900? I think they sold it for 13K in their Instagram story. So this card just sold, but that was out of 99. This is out of 10. And Cage, people are going to love this patch.
Yep.
It's nearly impossible on an NT card to get these subgrades. You have a 10 centering and 9 5s all the way around. And it's an interesting time to buy SGA. I still think he's should be in discussion for MVP. And I think, really interestingly, OKC is plus 3,500 to get into the playoffs. I don't think that the market has priced in how valuable SGA is to that OKC team.
That's a lot of letters.
What do you mean? Oh, SGA, OKC.
He's potentially the MVP, and they don't realize how valuable SGA is to OKC. Let's keep it on the QT ASAP.
No, but seriously, dude, take SGA off that team.
Man, take SGA off. Do you think it matters that this is a BGS?
No, not for NTs, not for national.
If it were an SGC or a PSA, could we add some more letters into the equation?
We have a very busy day ahead of us. Very busy day.
So I can't get off track.
We're going to the show. We have the collectible eBay event. We have to record
this card, by the way. It's the reason why I picked it out. I mean, you have in our group chats, sent us pictures of like the flawless one. You've been saying, basically since like game 3. You said you saw something different in SGA. Like, this is a year for him. He's going to be awesome. People should be picking up his stuff. It's also difficult to know what the right one is. And here you are, somebody bought it out of 99. This is out of 10. Is this the right one? I will say in 2018, there are less parallels than, the myriad of parallels that are out there now. So, you really have less of a chance to get it wrong. I don't think you can really go wrong with number 1 of 10. We're recording on Friday. There's still, 48 hours to go before the bids are done. But right now, this one sits at 12.5, which puts it about at where the last out of 99 sold on Instagram.
Right.
I think personally, I love the 99s, but I would rather have the number 1 of 10 than just some random 99, especially in BGS 9.5 with that cool patch.
Agreed.
So that's why I pulled that one out there. Another fun one, we talked about this one, the 2001 Bowman Chrome Japan Gold Refractor Ichiro Suzuki rookie out of 49 in BGS 9.5. We've talked about how this weekly auction is going to be nuts because of repeats. We mentioned this one. I just want to, people to take a look at this one again. We don't have to spend a million years talking about it, but at that price, just because it is Ichiro, the Japan Gold Refractor provides another cool parallel out of 49. I think there's also an out of 99 version of it as well, but really nice card. BGS 9.5. You got it up there. It's a high grade card, one of the more coveted of Ichiro. So really nice. I think I said out of 49, it's out of 99. My bad.
Yeah, so you have the gold out of 99, and then you actually have in the same auction the refractor PSA 9.
Yes, so you have the. I would much rather have the gold. I mean, it's clearly a more expensive card. This card's really nice. If you're an Ichiro person, I've stashed some Ichiros away for 3 years from now when he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. People start talking about him again, and
you have two audiences, right? You have Japan and you have America. You have 2 fan bases.
Yep.
I want to touch on this. So usually, guys, if you see right here, it's flash, and it'll show you the number of items that have been flashed in.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually not as many as you would think. So typically there's 3,000-4,000 items flashed on a weekly basis, sometimes 2,400. But because some of the items were relisted when the Amazon servers crashed 2 weeks ago, there's not actually as many items as I would have expected in this weekly auction, which is a good thing.
All right. I mean, that makes sense. A card that I am going to be paying a lot of attention to because you don't see them sell that often. And, there's one on collectible. So obviously it goes back and forth here. It'll set a new comp. The 1997 Browns Boxing Floyd Mayweather Jr. rookie in PSA 10. Right?
I'm so on the other side of this card, man. I think Floyd is one of the most overrated athletes of all time.
Really?
I don't think he's...
one of the most successful boxers of all time. You know what I mean? You say overrated. Tell me why.
I don't think he's fought anybody. I don't think anybody loves his personality. I think there's way more revered boxers than this guy, and his undefeated record comes with an asterisk. He never really fought anybody in their prime.
Okay. Listen, we've had that conversation before about how sometimes the greats need a nemesis. Right, Federer, Nadal, the whole deal there. Whether it's a nemesis or a rival, or
right,
Sampras Agassi. We talked about it a bunch in tennis. Does it taint somebody's career? We see it now, especially more when it's across generations. I see a lot of stats. It's like Steph, LeBron, and Jordan. Who did they play with? Who was on their team? How many all-stars they had to get them to the title? What kind of plumbers was Bob Cousy playing against when he was in the top 50 NBA players of all time? It does make a difference, I guess, when you're looking at stuff like this. This is just one of those rare rookie cards. It is, for me, why I'm paying so much attention to it. One, obviously, I want to see a new comp for collectible. But more importantly, it's just to me, this boxing card, wrestling cards, tennis cards, they're the poster children, if I'm allowed to say that, for this most recent run-up. Because just like you talked about, hey, is it time to get into baseball, something into basketball, right? I remember the last time you collected baseball cards. If you opened a shop, it was a baseball card store. That's what it said on the thing, baseball card store. Why? Okay. Because in the 80s, they stopped making basketball cards for the first half of it. You had Magic Johnson playing. You had Patrick Ewing playing. You had Michael Jordan playing. 1984. Look at all these guys, right? Clyde Drexler, Charles Barkley. You had all these stars playing. You still had Kareem playing. You still had Dr. J playing. You had Magic and Bird. And there was no release. There was no official card. You couldn't buy packs between, the 80 Tops and the 1986 Fleer. It didn't matter. But then there was this run-up, this craziness. You still had Jordan. Jordan was doing awesome. And you had, Shaq came in, and there was an expansion. Then, hockey cards. You had Gretzky playing this whole time. Where's all the hockey cards? There were some in the 80s, but it wasn't a huge thing, especially, I guess in Canada, maybe it was. But you had this expansion into 4 sports. I remember Classic came out with a set in 93 called Classic 4 Sport for draft picks and, college guys. And it kind of like started the expansion of the hobby. But
one sport, baseball, split to 2 sports, splits
basketball,
to 4 sports.
football was there. I mean, you had these, but it weren't huge things. They were like niche collectings. And then now you have major 4. You had the 4 sports. And basketball has taken off. And you could say basketball is more popular than baseball now. Football might be more popular than baseball. Then you also had in the late 90s TCG come out. But it wasn't something people collected. They started playing the stuff, right? So this last kind of boom cycle, you had more of this niche audience become mainstream. Like when we had David Peck on, people know who the hell he is. Now you go on Twitter, he's like the godfather of wrestling cards. The 82 wrestling is like everybody's, oh, look at this stuff. This type of card, boxing cards, tennis cards, Disney Lorcana. I mean, all this crap that people never would have even thought about collecting or buying. This cycle kind of blew it all up. I want to watch this to see if it falls, how far it falls, and whether or not this remains a viable collectible in the near term.
You have a boom, you have demand. The manufacturing companies start to produce product to fill that demand. That demand temporarily leaves, and you want to buy the best stuff from when that demand was in its peak.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's just I've been saying all along that the fringe stuff that's out there will be the first things that people sell when the going is not good, right? I've been saying that the whole time. I've been saying, like, beware with your tennis cards, beware with your highlight cards, beware with your stuff that doesn't have that big collector base, and it was just kind of propped up on the I'm chasing this next, right? We all got a little nuts. We did. Like, I was out there saying maybe we should find some Hello Kitty cards for when the Hello Kitty NFT comes out with the Gary V collaboration. Because you never knew. That was not like, oh wow, this is look, this is going to be a long-term collectible. That was, can you catch a wave and ride it? Well, now everybody's catching waves and they're riding them down, right? So I'm just curious to see whether or not this one has legs. We've seen it with the rock card that you hate, run up.
I don't hate it. I just don't understand the appeal.
I say hate.
Let's move.
Shoot.
Now, explain this to me, Cage.
Mm-hmm.
So something I'm looking at, and we talked about set builders, set collectors. Typically, we don't love stickers in the hobby, but 1986 Fleer stickers have some lasting power. What I don't understand is, first off, a Kareem 10 sold for, do you remember how much during the peak of the bubble?
Like $260,000, I think. There been a couple of them over $250,000.
Insane price. So I'm looking at, in this week's auction, I'm looking at stickers. And I'm looking at Patrick Ewing and Julia Serving and Magic Johnson. So these are 35, 36, and $35, okay? With 2 days left. Great. And then you have, another Magic Johnson 9. You have a Hakeem 9. You have a Hakeem 10. You have a Jordan in here as well. Explain to me why for the Kareem is so much more valuable than an Irving or a Magic.
The population on them. They were cut off centered. So I think you got to give me 3 seconds on this, but I know that the pop on the Kareem is nothing. So these stickers are a weird thing because the 86 Fleer set, we talked about what's going to be the next set that gets collected, right? The 86 Fleer set is one of the most put together sets. People just come in. It's easy. People love the set building. And
a lot of greats. Literally every great athlete. Right.
Because there was no set, just like we just said, for 5 years. So, but people think that the complete set includes the sticker set, right? So it's one thing to sell the set of cards. I forget what it is, 100 and something cards, 132, whatever it is. But then there's also the sticker set, which has 11 stickers at the end. So it's funny because I remember, I won't say who I pitched the idea to, but I remember pitching an idea in 2018. There was a set. It was $110,000 or best offer, PSA 10 on eBay, just sitting there for the full 86 Fleer set and the stickers, right? And I'm like, I don't have this money, but maybe I'll split it with somebody. Last I looked, the Kareem had like 14 total 10s, so that's why it's there. I mean, you can only have that many. So let's look. They're rare in 10s. 15. There's 15 10s now. The Isaiah only has 40. The Dominique Wilkins has 57. The Elijah one has 63. Even the Jordan, there's 122 of the stickers.
15 tens on the
Yep.
Kareem.
Yep.
273 nines.
Correct.
Just to give you guys some numbers on the last sales for the nines. Last sale was 11/13, $4,000. Before that, it was $5,000. Before that, it was $6,000. Before that, it was 6.5. I'm looking at Dr. J and Magic in this set in nines, and you get this again by the card, not the grade. You know, get a nicely centered one. Use the high definition images that PWCC provides to get the right one. Because another thing to remember is when this run up started, a lot of people went to their, attic, basement, wherever, and they're like, I'm going to sub the sticker. I've had this in my collection for a long time, right? So PSA saw an influx.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, they know how iconic this set is. They're not just going to give away tens. So a lot of these nines are very nice looking nines. And we know the Kareem, in a 10 sold for a lot of money, a 9 sold for, 4 figures. Take a look at Dr. J. Take a look at the Patrick Ewing. Take a look at the Magic Johnson in this week's weekly auction. They're right now at $35, Cage.
Yeah. Well, so this is one of those cards that the 10 and the lower grades just do not have any correlation or rubber band effect. The Kareem is an anomaly. The people who were able to get the Kareems, Cajun, nice job, and someone else who were able to get the value for Kareem that they took advantage of people who were like, I have to have this set. It doesn't matter what it costs. And, you get your price. And I say take advantage, not like in a bad way. It's just everything, the stars aligned. I would love to go back. I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to go back to February of 2020, just like we did with the Wilt. What do you think, without looking, what do you think that Kareem 10 sold for in February of 2020? The one that we now know was sold for, let's just call it $250,000, round down the last two sales.
I think it's a $10,000 card.
$18,000. Yep. $18,000 in February 2020, which means that card has gone up, 15x in 2.5 years. That's a huge run up. But what explains that is that there's only 15 of a card, and you got 2-3 people who need to have it to finish that set, and they don't really care what it's going to cost them, whether it's $50,000, $100,000, or $200,000. You get that price. That does not mean in any way, shape, or form that the 9 should sell for any percentage of that. That is a battle of 1, 2, 3 people fighting for it, and
You know how you guys talked about covering that chart, right? I think we should all look at the last 2 years and these high comps with an asterisk. We shouldn't just automatically disqualify it, but we could also understand that there was some irrational behavior going on, some FOMO, some chasing, some dick measuring, all the stuff that we like to do. And now I would just try to kind of get back to fundamentals and block out the noise. So in this same auction, there is a Hakeem 10 Cage. What's really cool about the Hakeem card is he's actually blocking Magic.
Yep.
So not only do you have Hakeem, you have Magic Johnson, and it's in a 10. Sure, it's higher pop. There's 63 Hakeem 10s. The last sale, Cage, was $4,600, and the sale before that was $4,000. We know how this market is going. Right now, that Hakeem is sitting at $600. So I don't know what the future holds. I can't predict price. If I could, I'd be a millionaire, probably billionaire. But I do know that eventually you have to know when to spot a good deal. And I think that there are some good deals available with these stickers. I don't want to beat up too much of our time because we have to move on, but just something I've been thinking about with these.
Yeah, listen, I love it. I think you're probably onto something. The Jordan sticker, which is more pop of, just look at the 10. That's more comparable to what I would look at as far as a chart for the other 9s, right? I mean, you go back to to September of 2020. You have to go back to February, and it's a $25,000 PSA 10, a Jordan sticker. It went as high as I think $234,000 in the gold in February of 2021. Earlier this year, still, a significantly high value. The last one looks like it's sold in October for $47,000. You're still happy if you bought it for 25. Great, it's going up. It's it's good stuff, but it's those are ones where there's just too many of them that come out there. The Kareem, I'm not saying Kareem's going to come down to $40,000. There's just you don't see them. You know what I mean? They're not cards that are available. So anyway, I don't want to beat that up, but I do like the stickers. The only thing you have to be careful with is, we also saw an influx, like you said, of people opening 86 Fleer boxes this year. They're not exactly rare, and there is one of those stickers in every pack. When you open a box, there's one of those stickers on the back of every pack. So there's not one of those stickers in PSA 10 on the back of every pack, but there's one of those stickers on the back of every pack of those boxes. So, you're talking about something that's not rare. It's an 11 card set, 36 packs per box, means you're getting 3 of every one on average per box.
I agree that everything comes back to dollars and cents. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about an item with this. Let's just use the Hakeem 9 for just like a fun example. There's 890, like Cage said. There's tons of these. That card peaked at $2,000 to $200, $2,002. Now it's back down to $200 for a Hakeem 9. So it's one of those cards that you're like, I've always wanted it. Now it's at an affordable price.
Yep. So 2 more, 1 card, 1 fun one. The 69 Topps basketball Lou Alcindor rookie. There's a PSA 7 this week. It's a PWCC E. The eye appeal designation. These have come down a lot. I mean, we talked about these. These cards have come down a lot from their peak. Most cards that have any kind of decent population have. But I mean, you got to call him a top 10 player of all time, top 2 scorer soon. No,
top 5.
Alcindor.
Yeah, why do I keep saying Hakeem?
It's all right. It's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It's a great card. It has really nice eye appeal, and the difference between an 8.5, a 9, a really nice 7. It's so small on the edges and the centering of this card.
What year? I apologize.
It doesn't say Kareem. That's why I say it's Alcindor. He hadn't changed his name yet, so it's 1969. You could just write 1969 LEW and it'll come up.
Gotcha.
See?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really nice copy. It's nicely centered. It's in really great shape. So, and you're getting it at a fraction of the price of this one. I think I would hold this up against, most 8s, and this one is a nicer copy, I think, at a significant discount.
That's really nicely centered. I don't know if you guys have seen a lot of these. The centering on these is extremely tough.
Yep. Yeah, this is a really nice card. Anyway, listen. So the next one is it's a memorabilia item. We don't really focus on these too much, but this is a cool one. There's a 2015 Super Bowl full ticket for the Patriots Seattle game.
That's sick.
With Tom Brady's autograph on it. This is the 2015 Super Bowl with the Malcolm Butler catch.
Perfect condition.
This is the only 10-10
wow.
out there. I mean, if you're a Brady collector or a Patriots collector, this one kind of caught my eye. Yeah, it says PSA population 1 of 1 because it's a 10 ticket with a 10 auto. If you're a believer in, tickets long term as a collectible, I know there's a lot of people who spend a lot of money on tickets. It's difficult to think of a cooler piece in perfect condition with a perfect Tom Brady auto than this Super Bowl ticket, and you'd be the only one that has it for now. I mean,
you know where my intuition went there?
Shoot.
How does it get? How did this person get that auto? It probably wasn't at the game, right? Because I doubt that wasn't at the game. And was that ticket from the game? Was that a used ticket?
I mean, it does. It's a full ticket. It's a full ticket.
How did they keep it in such perfect condition?
I mean, listen, at that point in time, some people were keeping tickets. Maybe it's Darren Ravel's. I don't know. I'm only, half making that statement, but he was probably keeping tickets in great condition in 2015. I'm sure there are other people in the world who were, especially Super Bowl tickets. There are a lot of people who collect Super Bowl tickets. I had an uncle who did it, in the 80s. So by 2015, he had a method for doing it. You might say that maybe the 2015 tickets have a better chance of staying in good condition because maybe you're able to get that as like a season ticket holder or whatever it is, and then also like scan in a printable Ticketmaster version, so that becomes your ticket for the game, and that one never even has to go anywhere. You just get it in your house and save it. I don't know the answer. That Super Bowl, right? I mean, Malcolm Butler.
That's a Super Bowl. I think. Like that's a moment in time that I think a lot of people in 25 years will remember that and how it like changed a lot of legacies, right? Because that might. I wonder what happens to Brady if they don't win, and I also
try to get Russell Wilson to sign it, right?
What happens to Russell? What happens to Marshawn Lynch? One play I remember I was in this like big outdoor beer garden in San Francisco watching the game. It was epic. It was one of the best Super Bowls I've ever seen.
I mean, it's one of those cool items. There are a lot of items. There's a lot of items we already talked about in our previous episode because things are getting relisted. But this one kind of jumped out at me. I like to find those. Now, keep in mind, there are probably other 10s out there in this ticket. So even though it's a pop 1 of 1 right now, somebody could still go buy a 10 and go get Tom Brady to sign it. And there could be another 10-10 at some point in time. That could happen. But as we currently talk about this one right now, as this auction is up, this is the only one out there with a 10 ticket and a 10 auto.
What I would also do is forget the auto grade because that makes it a pop one because it's 10-10. There's not going to be, but just go and search how many 10s of that ticket there are, how many 9s, 8, 7, 6, 5, etc. That will give you a little bit of a gauge of if people kept them in good condition and not. One more card I'll give, and then we'll wrap. So we have a follower, someone that as I've become friends with. I like the guy a lot. It's a 90s card collector, Curtis. Mm-hmm. So he often buys iconic cards that are graded or slabbed in low grades, and then just breaks it out and puts it in a mag, or he doesn't need the card in a slab. He's not that collector. There might be an opportunity for you guys to get an absolute grail in this auction for what I think is just an insane discount. So there's a LeBron PSA 7 black refractor rookie in this auction. It's a PSA 7, right? Who's looking for PSA 7s? Oftentimes PSA 7s sell for less than raw cards. There's one in this weekly auction. And one of you guys may be the beneficiary of this card. So it's sitting at $4,000 right now. That's probably should be closer to the $15,000 range, according to the last comp. Obviously extended. We don't know where this is going to end, but there's a real opportunity with this card that for you guys that don't care about the grade, you're okay with, having it in a 7 or, you crack it out, whatever. Take a look at the black refractor LeBron rookie.
So thank you all for listening to another episode of Lucas, Tigers, and Bronzo My. I wanted to tell you about a new service that we have starting as of today, and I'm really, really excited to bring it to you guys. So as a part of our partnership with SGC, we got 50 free submissions every single month, and many of you have taken advantage of that. And it's amazing that we could have the opportunity to 650 episodes, 675 episodes in, to go ahead and give back to our community. As people were sending those cards in, they asked, can we send 5, 10, 20 more cards to you guys? We'll pay for it, but we wanted them graded with SGC. You guys know SGC is turning cards around in 13 to 14 business days, have incredible customer service, and their secondary market values are going up day after day after day. And that's exciting for the hobby and exciting for the grading landscape. So we didn't want to just rush into it. We wanted to do it right. And what we did was I relocated here to Boca Raton, Florida. I opened up a P.O. box maybe 5 minutes away from SGC, and I will be hand delivering and hand picking up the cards. So you don't have to worry about anyone else touching your cards. It will be me, and I will update you every step of the way. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to personally pick up the cards from a P.O. box, prep them, new card saver, new penny sleeve, and deliver them to SGC every single Tuesday. Why Tuesday? Well, it lets the stragglers over the weekend come back through on Monday and gives me a day to prep, and it basically gives SGC the entire week to work on grading those cards. Once your cards pop, only then at the end of the process will you be paying for the service. It's $25 per card, simple as that, and the turnaround times have never been faster. We're hearing right now 13, 14, less than 20 business days. So there it is. 9170 Glades Road, number 135 is the P.O. box in Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. 9170 Glades Road, number 135, Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. Of course, you could shoot me an email or shoot me a text anytime, and I'm always available. Many of you already have my email. It's iamandrewgoldberg@gmail.com. or my cell phone number, 215-519-9154. Reach out with any questions. I could walk you through the process. I've hopped on the call with quite a few of you, and I'm happy to do that. Love you, Luca Nation.